This is Joe Shasky, and this is the Butcher Shop here live on 95.7 The Game. If you haven't known by now, we are doing a kind of a spin-off podcast for the station, and it's where you can get all my opinions, all of the hot-breaking games. A game just ended. You're looking for some reaction. Find us right here on 95.7 The Game's YouTube page. Like and subscribe wherever you find your podcasts, whether that's the Odyssey app, whether that's normal Apple podcast spots, Spotify. We are everywhere. Just search The Butcher Shop, like and subscribe. I am Joe Shasky. You can catch me every single morning, 6 to 10 a.m. In today's episode, short and sweet, we're going to get right to the point. The 49ers got devastating news during the middle of the game yesterday. They lost Fred Warner for not just a couple of weeks, for the season. Dislocated ankle, broke his ankle essentially, and it's a devastating loss. 54 is an all-time 49er. And I don't just say that by just saying it to compliment him because I'm somebody who's just followed the team for a couple years. No, I mean this with every fiber in my soul. My grandfather grew up rooting for this team. He was an usher, one of the inaugural seasons of the San Francisco 49ers in 1946, going back to Kezar. My dad had season tickets. I was lucky enough to go see the 49ers during the glory days. And I have season tickets, and I've taken my family to the games. And so I've seen them all. I've seen Leo, the Lion Nomalini videos from back in the day, the guy who was a professional wrestler and played defense on the 49ers during the Kezar days. I've seen the highlights of Jimmy Johnson, the great defensive back who made the Hall of Fame. I grew up on Ronnie Lott. I grew up on Charles Haley. I grew up on Patrick Willis and Justin Smith and Bryant Young. And a long line of unbelievable 49ers who have given their body to the sport. Fred Warner is an all-time 49er. And this is why this particular loss for the 49ers feels devastating. Nick Bosa is an unbelievably talented player, unbelievable pedigree. He's been outstanding for the majority of his career. But Fred Warner just hits a little different. This is a guy who was drafted after the whole Reuben Foster fiasco, when we thought Reuben Foster was going to be the guy at linebacker, on the heels of Chris Borland retiring and Navarro Bowman's knee getting shredded and Patrick Willis walking away from the game. I mean, quietly, the 49ers have had an unbelievable legacy at the linebacker position. And in my life, whether we're talking about Keena Turner playing outside linebacker, whether we're talking about Hacksaw Reynolds, whether we're bringing up Bill Romanowski, all the way to Lee Woodall and Gary Plummer, to Ken Norton Jr. signing here, finding Derek Smith and Jeff Ulbrich, Julian Peterson playing outside linebacker, Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman. I referenced Chris Borland. Fred Warner is as good as every one of those linebackers. Drafted out of BYU in the third round, kind of a bizarre pick. It's like, is this guy a tweener? What is he, a safety? Is he a linebacker? And all he's done is been one of the greatest players to ever wear the uniform. And it's not just that he's an awesome player. It's how he conducts himself. It's how he carries himself. I mean, this is a guy you would want to represent, whether it's Apple or Google or Pepsi or Levi Strauss. Pick the company. You would want Fred Warner standing at a podium representing your brand. He went from wearing number 48 his rookie year up in Minnesota. I'll never forget doing the post-game show with Bonte, and boom, here goes this guy, number 48. A terrible number for a linebacker. Number 48's wearing the green dot helmet week one as a rookie next to Elijah Lee, some linebacker that time has forgotten. And as I think about it today, about what he's evolved into, I think there are certain guys who put on a Niner uniform who just mean more to the fans, just mean more to that locker room. And I think of some of the guys in my lifetime. I'm 42 years old. And I got to start with Ronnie Lott. Ronnie Lott, I mean, his resume speaks for itself. When you talk about class personified, respect, fear from the opponent, yet respect. When we talk about an all-time player who could have played in any generation, you start with Ronnie Lott. And I know they've been great players, before the glory years, but that's who I grew up starting to love. And this guy got a Pro Bowl and at every single position in the secondary, left corner, right corner, free safety, strong safety. In a Niner uniform, this guy had 51 interceptions. 51 interceptions. And no one brings up the interceptions, but he was a ball hawk and a head hunting safety and cornerback. He started off as a cornerback on those original dynasty teams and drafted out of USC. Unbelievable pedigree, kind of like Nick Bosa, coming from a glory program in college. And he was everything you wanted in a player. Ferocious hitter, unbelievably tenacious in the run game, could do anything you wanted. But listing off Ronnie Lott's accomplishments, like that doesn't begin to describe who Ronnie Lott is. I think of Ronnie Lott on the sidelines, firing up teammates, putting his arm around guys on the offensive side of the ball, saying, "It's all right, we got you on the next possession." That's Fred Warner. That's exactly what Fred Warner stood for. Fred Warner is a guy in the modern day who can play the catch, meaning defend against tight ends and wide receivers and running backs in the flat. They can also come up and hit you and wham you and knock you out. Knock you out. There's a play in my childhood, Icky Woods getting laid out by Ronnie Lott, ended Icky Woods, the Icky Shuffle. And I think about a couple years ago when Fred Warner hit Najee Harris, and you could just tell, oh my God, not only is our season in 2023 off to a raucous start, Fred freaking Warner might have ended this young man's career, for crying out loud. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. And I think about all the things right now that's going on with the 49ers. And this is a bigger loss than any of them because of what he means, the heart and soul. You know, later on in my life, I got the pleasure of watching Bryant Young coming out of my favorite college, Notre Dame, Rookie of the Year. They go on to win the Super Bowl in 1994, the 49ers, that is. And he's paired up with Dana Stubblefield, a ferocious kind of interior defensive line to slow down that unbelievable run game for the Dallas Cowboys. That's why they picked him. Rookie of the Year, his first year. And I think about the injury that Fred just sustained in this game, shattering the ankle, dislocating it. It reminded me a lot of Bryant Young in 98, breaking his leg. Friendly Fire was a part of that. The New York Giants, they were playing on a primetime game, and everyone's going, come over, come over, come over. It's the same thing we saw yesterday. Bryant Young, 90 sacks, played inside, outside, ended up being comeback player of the year for multiple writers associations and an American football writers associations, 4-time Pro Bowler. But stats don't represent what Bryant Young represents. He was the last link to the dynasty. Patrick Willis says, he taught me how to be a professional. That was Bryant Young's final season. Patrick Willis's rookie season. And when you think about Bryant Young, why he's a Hall of Famer, like Ronnie, leadership. And what the man stood for on and off the field. And I think about Fred Warner and just being a gladiator. Bryant Young missed 16 total games in 14 years. 16 games in 14 years. Playing in one of the craziest eras, the 90s and the 00s, when the rules were all over the place. And his accolades are unbelievable. Played in 208 games and only missed 16 games in 14 years. It's remarkable. And he's class personified. You talk to him, you meet him, you talk to Niner fans from that Depression era, and I'm talking like post-Steve Young into the 00s. Bryant Young never complained, never said boo-hoo, just went out and did his job. Ate up double teams, did all the grunt work. Everything you want in a defensive lineman, Bryant Young represented. Everything you want in a leader is what Bryant Young represented. He was unbelievable. And it's sad to me that he's not remembered, even though he is in the Hall of Fame. He's not remembered the way he should be. But OG Candlestick Niner fans know where Bryant Young stands, 97. And I think about Fred Warner's injury. I also think about Patrick Willis, probably the gold standard at the position for the 49ers. And like Fred, Pat didn't just mean excellence on the field. It's the character and the come-up story off the field. I think it was well documented how amazing Patrick Willis was in terms of being able to pull his family out of poverty, being adopted, what he represented at Ole Miss, running around with the cast on his arm, just recklessly throwing his body around. 5-time All-Pro. From day one, he was the best player on the 49ers. Came over at a time when the Niners might have been one of the most dysfunctional organizations in all of sports. Similar to Ronnie Lott, similar to Bryant Young, similar to the guy Fred Warner right now. Patrick Willis never said boo-hoo negative. Was just a consummate leader. And he wasn't as outward of a leader as maybe Fred Warner's been since day one, or maybe what Ronnie Lott was coming out of USC. But he grew into that role. And I think about all the different accolades that Fred Warner was going to surpass. They were all Patrick Willis's accolades. And I know the eras were different, but they're almost carbon copies of each other in terms of how to play the game. The gold standard at the position. Now, Patrick went up against a lot of fullbacks and had to meet guys in the hole. It was just different. He played in a 3-4. Fred's more your modern guy, but Patrick could guard those tight ends. Patrick could defend in the flat, over the top, in the intermediate. I remember him chasing down Adrian Peterson or chasing down LaDainian Tomlinson. We could talk about his 700-plus solo tackles and playing through all the pain, 20 sacks, 16 forced fumbles, played in 112 games. He was a gladiator. And a foot injury ended his career, which is just ironic. And it was sad because he played alongside a guy who also gave up his body. And you could argue it's the two greatest linebacking duos I've ever seen. Greenlaw and Warner, Willis and Bowman. You take Willis and Bowman, I'm taking Greenlaw and Warner. You take Greenlaw and Warner, I'm running up to the podium, I'm taking Willis and Bowman. They're so close, I don't think you can pick them apart. Unbelievable. And I think about Fred Warner. I think about this injury. He is so beloved by the 49er fans, not just for how he plays, but for how he conducts himself. Leadership. Through all the quarterback drama, through all the wide receiver diva drama, through all the contract holdouts, through all the ugly, awful losses at the end of the year where legacies are defined, Fred Warner always held his head high and represented the red and gold as great as any player who's ever worn it. And I believe Fred could have played in any era. I really do. I don't think his career is over. I'm never going to bet against him. But this loss is a devastating blow for 49er fans. It is a devastating blow for 49er fans. And it's as much what he represents in the locker room as it does on the field. Nick Bosa's a great player. He's a freaking great player. I don't look to him to lead the young guys. I look to 54. And 54 with an air cast on as he's getting carted off the field. I felt devastated for him. And I started thinking, damn it, this is why it sucks for Niner fans over the last 30-something years. We've been so good. We have so many iconic players. And yet they're all missing that one thing. They're missing that one thing that truly separates them from some of their contemporaries. Hoisting that Lombardi. Another player who's probably going to be out of his prime when he returns from this injury, which is just so crummy. He is an all-time 49er who means so much to that Levi's crowd. He has represented red and gold as well as anyone who's ever worn it. He will be a 49er for life, whether he is a lifer 49er or if he moves on. Same way Ronnie Lott. Ronnie Lott played on multiple teams after the Niners. He was a 49er for life and will forever be remembered as one. Fred Warner is a 49er for life. And I'm going to freaking miss him for the rest of this year. And I really hope that he ends up coming back. Now, what does that mean for the current 49ers? What a gaping hole of leadership. What a brutal, gaping hole they're going to have in the middle of their defense, getting them lined up post-snap. He's one of the smartest players in the league. I mean, you're missing out on Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Joe Montana's IQ from the middle linebacker position. How many times yesterday after he got injured and carted off the field, did the Niners just fail to get lined up properly? How ironic is it on the play that he got injured, there were only 10 guys on the field? I mean, are you kidding me? 10 guys on the field on that play. Nobody called timeout. Nobody saw it. It's brutal. And to see Fred out there with 8 different starters that were brand new for this particular season, 8 different guys. He never said boo-hoo. They're going to miss him big time. big time. And we've lost a lot of players. Brandon Ayuk, Nick Bosa. I mean, shoot, you lost Brock Purdy, the starting quarterback, for quite some time. But losing out on Fred Warner for the whole season and possibly a career-altering injury, it almost seems unfair. Now, Bryant Young ended up coming back. And the reason why I bring him up is Bryant Young was the 1999 Comeback Player of the Year. And he ended up going to have 8 extra seasons. Unbelievable seasons. I know the team didn't have the same success the first couple years of his career, but he was still an all-time player. I'm not going to write Fred Warner's career off, but he's got a big road ahead of him, and it just sucks. It freaking sucks. We love Fred Warner. We love 54. Wear your jerseys this weekend. They're playing the Falcons. 54, rest up. You're one of the all-time 49ers. And I'm not ready for you to call it a career. So you better come back because we need you in more ways than just being on the field. You're listening to The Butcher Shop. I'm Joe Shasky. Hit like and subscribe wherever you find them. We'll have another episode out tomorrow. Have a great day.